And we're back, and we're joined by Brian Arnold, Denver public school teacher, correct, Brian?
I am, yes, sir.
Thanks very much for coming on the show today. You have a story to tell. We have a mutual acquaintance, Derek Wilburn, and Derek introduced you to me to tell the story of what happened to you after the November election in your public school. But first, I need to start with a caveat. Okay, I need to make that we have documentation here. We have the emails that you refer to in your story. But we haven't verified, we haven't called the school, we haven't done any of this. We just wanted you to come, tell your story. And we're taking you at your word. And just so everyone knows, if anyone from your school, it's Montbello, wants to come refute anything you have to say, they're more than welcome to come on this show and do it.
I would enjoy that.
That might be actually kind of fun. So with that caveat in place, you are not just a man of color, obviously. That's the seen. The unseen is that you're self-identify as a conservative.
Absolutely.
And you're a Trump supporter, and you voted for Donald Trump.
I did.
All right. This became an issue, not the main issue, but so the story you tell is that when you woke up after Election Day, there was an email, there were several emails that had gone out to staff and students from teachers within your school. And I'm going to read a sentence from one of the emails that went out from one of the teachers. It says, "I am sorry. I am sorry that we as a country have let such a thing happen. I am sorry that we have let you down." That's from a teacher to her students. Now, your school would be predominantly Hispanic kids?
It is, Hispanic kids.
And then black kids,
and
then a smattering of some white kids and some other things like that. And I would imagine that they're from a lot of them from a socioeconomic class, fairly low, and some of them would be undocumented.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so an at-risk population in some ways, right? And so they sent out this letter. Now, but when someone says, well, "I'm sorry for what we did," well, we didn't do this. It was guys like you. Guys who actually voted for Donald Trump and supported Donald Trump, right? All right. So when you saw this, you felt like you needed to bring a little balance to the conversation. Tell us what happened.
Absolutely. And so, I believed as soon as I saw that there was, I guess the scale was very tipped on one direction. And I wanted the kids to just see another viewpoint, to see that it wasn't all about these two people that were running for president. It is about issues. And so I decided to do a lecture on the difference between conservative and the difference between liberal. And the lecture was part of my media arts class. And so we were. In
fact, I downloaded what you use, and it actually comes from a source.
It's called the Student Daily News.
It's for use in public schools, right?
Yeah, and it's a very non-biased. Just these are the viewpoints. And
I read it. It's pretty straightforward. Liberal, conservative,
all the different issues. Whether it's we talked about gun control, we talked about abortion, we talked about health care. But when we got down to immigration, and like you said, we do have a lot of students there that are undocumented students, and so I wanted to give an analogy. And the analogy that I wanted to give was one that would bring it closer to home, because I believe they were kind of trying to understand what is it that we are all arguing about. Why do we feel that there's going to be a bus that's going to show up tomorrow and take 11 million of us back to Mexico? And so the analogy I used, that I said, well, here's what the issue that the country's dealing with. The issue is that, let's say that you guys live here in this community, and there's a lot of homes, a lot of you live in the homes, and you have a fence in that home. And let's say that somebody just walks along and jumps over the fence and decides to live in your backyard. And I said, how would you feel and what would you do? That's how I ended it. I didn't have any more, in-depth conversation about that, but apparently that was on a Friday afternoon. And then when I showed up Monday, I showed up to, you're going to the principal's office, we have a substitute for you, and we're not going to allow you to teach your class right now. I'm like, what just happened? So I ended up in the principal's office for about 3 hours, and they're just really grilling me on this lesson, how I taught this lesson. And apparently some students were very upset. They thought I had discriminated against them. They didn't understand this analogy that I used. They were okay with my abortion. They were, portion of the seminar, the gun control, the health care, all 18 of the other issues, but this, I guess, very upset. And so they showed me a couple letters from the students that said that they felt that they, that they didn't feel safe in my class anymore, which is, how do you not feel safe in my class? And so I guess someone thought that I was going to try to deport them or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what that was, but what transpired after that is really the next morning I didn't have those same kids until the next day, the Tuesday. And so the principal said she was going to think on it. And then the next morning, she had me in her room for another hour. And she was saying, you are going to apologize to these kids. You are not going to bring up your beliefs. You're going to tell them that you want them to feel safe. So I said, okay, I'm okay. I don't want them not to feel safe.
Sure.
But we're supposed to have these hard conversations. You know, we've been talking about for the last 3 years, we're social justice schools, and we have to have these courageous conversations, and we have to look at other viewpoints.
Yeah. Actually, let me step back from that for a second, because you said you're a social justice school. So the curriculum is actually designed around the idea of, I mean, it's a social justice curriculum?
It is.
Is that right?
There's many teachers who believe that we need to make sure that our kids have a voice. We need to make sure that those kids understand how to stand up for each other and how to mix within society.
Well, I got to tell you, I read through some of the documents you sent, and the philosophy that they espouse is a great one. It sounds fantastic, right? It's very appealing. So I'm actually going to read what the principal sent out to help guide you, because this was a problem for a lot of kids, because coming up to the election and after the election, there was a lot of people who did think that buses were going to pull up.
They did.
And start deporting their parents, right?
They did.
And the problem is that these kids, they get some information from social media, and then it starts going around in a buzz within their peer group, in their homes and their communities. And so a guy like you would be the person who could say, wait a minute, hold the bus, for lack of a better term.
Exactly.
That we're going to talk about this in a rational way, and I'm going to explain that, no, buses are not going to pull up. And in fact, if you're worried about being deported, you should have been worried for the last 8 years, because the Obama administration has deported 2.5 million people, right? So one guy said he's going to do it. One guy's actually done it. But let me read, because I think it's a great sentiment, by the way. This is not meant as a criticism of the principal.
No, it's exactly what they say we're doing.
At the same time, we should not look to hide behind the idea of comfort in order to selfishly avoid uncomfortable dialogue. That's a great, that sounds like a place that values diversity of ideas and ideology and free speech. But then what happened?
Well, and that was my expectation.
With that as the caveat.
I thought, hey, this is a great lesson. I did a great job with it. I was actually happy with my lesson. I thought it went well, thought the kids received it well. And so, you know, after she's telling me I have to apologize. So now we go to my room, and she makes all the kids sit in a circle around us. And we start talking. She apologizes for them not feeling safe. I apologize. I mean, I was very even emotional about, I do not want you not to feel safe here. You guys are great kids. This has nothing to do with you. This is just where we are as a country. But where it got really crazy is, and this is where I just kind of at one point got upset, is she then said, I want to have the kids tell us how they feel about you so you can understand where they're at. I had said, well, why don't we just have them type something on a computer, they can print it on my printer, I can look at it anonymously, and then they can tell me exactly how they feel. Well, they were kind of uncomfortable just saying it, and nobody said anything when she said, tell them how you feel. Then she said, no, that's not good enough. We're going to go one by one around the room. And so I had to sit there for about 20 minutes with each kid telling me what they felt about me as a teacher, as a person, as an individual, as a person with my own beliefs. Not that my beliefs were okay, because in this situation, I don't think they believed that they were. I think in this situation, it was, this is the principal, I'm his boss, I get to tell him what he can and cannot say. And that's how I felt this whole time as it went around the room.
Okay, now wait a minute. It's one thing to get called into the boss's office.
Yeah.
I've been called into the boss's office, and to get counseled. It's quite another thing to have. These are teenagers, right?
Yeah, 14, 15,
16-year-olds.
17-year-olds.
I have to tell you, and maybe this is just purely generational, or maybe, but my remembrance of high school was that there is no possible way that me and the other students would have ever gotten to sit around in a circle and tell a teacher what we thought of them and their philosophy and their ideas. It just would not have happened. Do you think this is unique, or have we just seen a change over the last generation, and I'm just a fogey now?
No, it's very unique. I don't know any teachers.
You've never seen this before? This is not normal?
But I'm also in a school that I'm the minority where we're at, as far, especially with my beliefs. And I'm actually a chaplain at a hospital. And so, the kids know that. They know, she was telling me I need more love and more empathy. In fact, she came in the next day, and I have a poster in my room that talks about leaders yours is, and there's an acronym for it, and the first word is love, the next word is empathy. And she walked me over to the poster and she read the poster to me as if I don't have any love and I don't have any empathy for this group of kids. And she's been telling me since then, she needs to stretch me into making sure that I care about these kids more. And I think it's based on because I have a different belief, because I don't believe the kids actually believe that they aren't loved by me. I mean, they might have said that they were scared or whatever it was.
Well,
so,
I mean, there was a lot of stories about a lot of fear based on Donald Trump getting elected, based on the things he had said. But there also needs to be rational voices to step back, step back and talk about it. And it sounds like that's what you were doing. And it sounds like everything was fine until you used your example for the immigration part of the lesson plan. And everything was fine with you until you essentially got humiliated
yes,
by a
absolutely.
group of teenagers. Right? Did these kids know that these kids knew you told them you voted for Donald Trump?
I did. I told them I
curious what they thought of that.
Well, some of them were like, how could you dare vote for Donald Trump? What were you thinking? One instance said, you should go back to Africa, as if there's even a remote possible that I even came from there. But yeah, so they, some of them were upset. Some of them I think understood. But for whatever reason, with the culture that we're at, how could you vote for somebody who's trying to take us away from here?
I find it very interesting that you're philosophically and ideologically, you would be a minority within your school as a Trump supporter, or as just a self-identified conservative, period, right?
Yeah.
Even if you hadn't supported Trump. But at the same time, among the faculty, you would be a minority. So you're a minority.
I'm a super minority.
You're a super minority who's a minority within a minority. And you would think that you would be, that would actually be an interesting kind of guy to have in a school for some diversity of opinion and ideology, but that it might not be the case.
Yeah, and they spell that they want to say all the time that we need a lot more brown people in the building because we do, because the kids aren't seeing what their possibilities are. It's either entertainment or it's sports or something that they believe comes from our culture as far as being successful. So the more successful that we can be, the better off we are. We want them to see people who have different ideas.
Brian, great story.
Oh,
thanks very much for coming on and telling it. It was really fascinating and interesting, and I've never heard of anything like that before.
I know, it's crazy.
Thanks very much. Appreciate
You're welcome. I appreciate it.
And check us out at independenceinstitute.org, and we'll see you next week, okay? Thanks.